Oh, that's a nice place for the video to have stopped. Not really certain how well this is broadcasting, but we'll give it a try. Let me share this on my own Facebook. Posting as moi. Testing now. Facebook Live available. Skype. At Artisan Politics. But I think I'm able to bring in live streams from Skype, so we'll be testing that out today. Um, really what this is eventually going to be is the Artisan Politics show, and I will be discussing all kinds of things because I think politics, A, gets a bad name, and B, I don't think people really pay attention to how much it affects all of their lives, not just whatever happens in government. That's a piece of it, but politics is a much broader idea or metaphor. You have politics in your personal relationships, for instance. Um, you make political decisions in your own life in terms of what opportunities you'll pursue and what opportunities you won't pursue. So anyway, semantics are killing us. We always seem up for semantics. I think the show's going to happen Sunday nights, probably around 8 p.m. Central Time, because I'm in Minneapolis. You can reach me on Skype. It is at Artisan Politics, and we can chat. I definitely want to test out that feature, so if there is anybody checking out the stream, hit me up there. So, yeah, looks like there's like 2 people on the stream. But the only way this show really works is if I can get into some conversations with real people, because politics obviously is at least in terms of our short-term needs, is a people-driven event. Too long we've been told that you shouldn't talk about politics or sex or religion, and those 3 things are central to human existence on this planet for as long as we've been keeping track of it. So I don't know where I was going with that, but those are some of the things we'll definitely get into. I mean, clearly Trump's a train wreck, but you know he's just a symptom of a much larger problem, which is this guy would have never gotten elected had voters under 40 actually turned out for primary elections. I mean, that's the long and the short of it. Bernie Sanders would have probably squeezed by Hillary Clinton in the primaries. I don't think it would have been a blowout, but you know, at least it would have been the right decision. And Bernie clearly would have stomped Trump. He wouldn't have skipped the upper Midwest during the general. He would have been barnstorming from coast to coast, and yeah, it would have been a completely different result, and we'd be having completely different conversations right now. That said, we still need to have all those same conversations. We'll just have to do it in the context of starting local in 2018 with the primary elections. We've been convinced, once again, that gerrymandering has ruined politics, that we have no control. If we don't vote for the Democrats, you know, the country's going to hell, or if we don't vote for Republicans, the country's going to hell. I feel like what we really need to do is figure out a way to push better people through the primary elections during midterms, and then let gerrymandering do the rest of the work for us. So, both parties can lay claim to a progressive tradition in this country. You know, humanism and progressivism has been like the one steady through line throughout our history, and the country keeps getting more progressive and more humanistic as the years go along. Uh, and I wasn't recording, so I won't be able to post this, but that's okay. I'll post the new ones. But where was I? We've always progressed along a spectrum that keeps getting more equal and more rights for more people, and that's going to continue. It's generational at this point too. I think Gen X by and large is more progressive than the boomers. I think the millennials are clearly more progressive than either Xers or boomers. Ironically, I think the World War II generation were actually more progressive and more humanistic than the boomers ended up being, but that's a different story. Um, and the Gen Z or whatever they're calling the post millennials coming up, they're even more humanistic and more progressive and breaking down more barriers. So we're going in that direction regardless. Can we set up the mechanisms to take advantage of unstoppable demographic changes in this country? I think we can. And it starts in 2018. It actually starts right now, because if you live in a red district or you live in a blue district and the person who represents you is not sufficiently progressive in your opinion, whatever that means to you, it's going to mean something different if you're thinking, oh, Eisenhower was a progressive or Teddy Roosevelt was a progressive, compared to someone who thinks Carter or FDR or Bernie Sanders. But they still want the same thing, just different mechanisms to get there. But both parties need to be arguing over their good ideas to reach a common goal instead of bickering over what the goal is. We cannot afford that any longer. And I think the key to that is 435 congressional seats that are up for re-election every 2 years. That's the first metronome that citizens of this country can start to turn out like clockwork for those primary elections and let their representatives know that they're watching. As soon as the average congressperson is more scared of voters than they are, their checking accounts going down, we'll start to see really fast changes in this country. We have all the pieces. It's not like we're starting from scratch. I mean, we're just not being very smart about how we apply all of our various and sundry blessings towards our various and sundry challenges. And the opportunities couldn't be brighter, really, when you talk about all the different companies and innovations that are happening right now in America around sustainable energy and social innovations and social entrepreneurism and social media and trying to figure out a way to extend the actual American dream to more and more people, even while it's getting less and less, harder and harder to find at home. But again, that's just a resource issue. It's a math problem. It's not a we don't have enough to make everything work problem. It's a we let sociopaths sort of dictate our path for much too long, and they're not good at it. you know, I think there's certain things that a lack of emotion could be good at. Running society isn't one of those things, because people are mostly emotions, emotionally based. Their needs have emotional components, and if the leaders, quote unquote, can't even empathize or sympathize with that state of mind, they should be nowhere near the levers of power. So that's kind of what this show is going to be about. Hopefully I'll get into some good conversations. Actually, my Facebook page is a perfect place to start this journey, because my friends list is probably 50-50. Maybe not even that. It's actually probably set up in much way that the rest of the country is. You sort of have this 60% in the middle with 20% on either side. And I have interesting conversations with the whole spectrum, and I find places where everybody agrees And, I take note of places where people disagree, but those conversations aren't nearly as productive. So, um, find the places you can agree to move forward, get that done. And then those places that you disagree, well, you'll enter those disagreements having already accomplished something together in a positive fashion. So it changes the context of that discussion. And perhaps the places where you disagree, it's really more of a, oh, we disagree about the process. We don't disagree about the idea that this problem needs to be fixed, or it needs to be fixed as part of our societal obligation to the United States of America, which is really a metaphorical construct based on a shared agreement and understanding of reality that started with the Constitution, and it's changed every day since. They were interpreting the Constitution before the ink was even dry on the preamble. I mean, nothing that we're seeing today is anything that we haven't seen for the last 240 years. So I guess that's the good news. Except gay rights. We haven't seen that. That's cool. Work's not done, but we haven't seen that. Black president. That's a recent change that we never saw. So, I think we're moving in the right direction. So if you have Skype, you can reach out via at Artisan Politics. I have a phone number that I bought at some point, but I don't recall. I'm not seeing any comments on the stream. Got a whole 2 people, and I'm probably considered one of them, I guess. Yeah. So, I wonder if I can find that phone number. I think it's on Twitter. Maybe I can get somebody to shoot me a test phone call. All right. Like you can call Skype too. So yeah, eventually, I'll probably get people calling, and hopefully I'll have people waiting to jump into the conversation, or I don't even know how the Skype thing will be. I'll probably have to go back to using the Blog Talk Radio solution because it allows me to put people on hold. But maybe I can figure out a way to queue people up on Skype. I don't know. Or just take comments via Facebook, or however this works out. It's kind of a new format for the live streaming video chat podcast thing. And I'm looking forward to getting into some interesting conversations with everybody, and seeing where we're at in 2018. I'm hoping to start in the very first congressional primary, which I believe my mom actually just posted something on my page to that effect. I believe this dude decided to run in like Georgia or something. Why wouldn't they say it's a so I don't know if you can hear that or not. Georgia, April 18th in Georgia. Thank you, Mom. So April 18th in Georgia is the first primary election, but I guess it's a special election or something. But um, that's the first post-Trump election where people can get involved, and that's in Georgia. And there's a guy running against the incumbent, and is actually doing really well and raising a lot of money. So I think there's momentum. I think there's a grassroots energy that is ready to be tapped into, and it's been waiting to be tapped into. Bernie Sanders is the first one to really show. Actually, Barack Obama was the first one to sort of find a hint of its existence, and then Bernie Sanders really brought it into light. And obviously, since Trump was elected, we've continued to go that direction. And got a comment on the Facebook stream. He says, "Get a horse." So I'll get a horse. I don't like horses. You can keep your horses. They don't like me, so it's all good. So where was I? So the primary elections, the midterm primary elections, just hyper focus on your congressional district. Wherever you live, that's the most important election in the 2018 election season, starting with that primary election, right? Chances are you live in a non-competitive district. It's probably been in the hands of the same party for years, if not decades. The incumbent's probably won for years, if not decades. He's probably run unopposed for years, if not decades, right? The opposite part, whatever the opposition party, red or blue, they've probably had pretty competitive races, multiple people running in the primaries to see who's going to be the sacrificial lamb in November because that district's gerrymandered, right? So it's all bread and circus. It's never been designed to do anything other than get that person back into office. How you disrupt that is by taking that incumbent out in his primary, because he's not used to running against someone. And during a midterm primary, the average turnout is 15%. So it's relatively easy to bump turnout enough to have a dramatic effect in a single election cycle. We could literally get rid of every single incumbent in a single election cycle. And I think most progressive incumbents or incumbents who believe in term limits might support that. They might say, hey, primary me out. Maybe they would support their own challenger in a primary. That's we need to flip the script. I'm tired of everybody acting like it's a fait accompli that we're going to keep getting fucked. And this is a rated R program, so if your kids are watching, there will be the occasional F-bomb when needed. And the fact that we're getting well and truly screwed by our lack of smart participation in politics deserves an F-bomb from time to time. But starting now in 2017, each congressional district right now has been gerrymandered to the point that it's in the hands of one party, has been for years. We all agree on that. Each congressional district is roughly 700,000 people who are supposedly homogenetic. I think the way they drew the boundaries wasn't necessarily based on the homogeneity. I can never pronounce that word. Homogeneity of the district as much as it was of people who normally voted in that district. So in a midterm primary, you're talking 15% turnout. That means 85% of the voters were not accounted for when they gerrymandered those districts. So using that math, it's easy to talk to 85% and say, hey, are you sick of not having a say? Are you sick of being out of the game? Well, here's a guy who's running in, register Republican if you're in a closed primary, or if it's an open primary, vote for the Republican instead of the Democrat, because they don't matter in this district. And just speak to people very matter-of-factly. 700,000 people, it's very simple to get that audience in today's world using social media, shoe leather politics. Check out the Georgia special election. What's the guy's name? His name is So now this politics or whatever posted this thing on Facebook. Let me share it. I'll share it to the Artisan Politics page. Um, but he, oh wait, let me find his name first. But they didn't post his name as part of the post. So it's like this 30-year-old running for Congress could be a wake-up call to Trump's America. I don't know where he's running. I don't know who he is, what his name is in that post. So bad, bad now this original, bad. So his name is, wait, I'll find it. John Ossoff. Ossoff. John Ossoff. John what? John Ossoff. I assume 2017. They said it's a special election because some dude got put in the cabinet. So perfect opportunity to see if a Democrat can flip a seat on a special election because the turnout will be even lower. It'll be like 5%. It's ridiculous. So check out Artisan Politics. Facebook.com/Artisan Politics. Yep. So that's what's going on here. I don't really see anybody on Skype yet. Probably shut this thing down at some point. How long have I been going? 23 minutes, not so bad. So focusing on your district, finding someone to run. I have an idea who I want to recruit 435 veterans to run in their local district, wherever they grew up, wherever their hometown is. Move back home. Where did you go to school? Where did you grow up? You have a vested interest in fixing this country, and you've seen firsthand how that power can be abused. And we need to take control of the empire. It's time to put the empire back in check. It needs to become a republic again. That was the original vision, and we've never been closer. And I think we can get back there. So, yeah, recruit 435 vets to if they're already at home, awesome. Or if they're just living wherever they're living, if they've been in a community for 20 years and they're not going back to where they grew up, but hey, they've been in the same spot for however long. Look at your local district and decide if the person who's doing things in your name is worthy of that responsibility and that charge. Because I'm guessing they are not. And if they aren't, you're obligated to run against them in the primary. And chances are you're old enough. Chances are you've seen enough. If you look into that John Ossoff in Georgia, he's already raised $3 million through social media and various modern techniques in a special election for a congressional district in Georgia. That's unheard of. It's a ridiculous amount of money for that kind of race. So the money's out there. The enthusiasm's out there. People are paying attention. Register to run in your local district. Let's flood them. If this guy's never faced anybody, make him face 5 people. 5 people all going, you know what? Eisenhower was a freaking progressive. Here's the 1956 Republican Party platform. How come the modern Republican Party can't follow this platform? Why haven't you followed that platform for the last 60 years? What's wrong with you? Did you forget where you came from? Teddy Roosevelt, Lincoln, hell, Jefferson. I mean, a case can be made that the roots of the modern or of the Republican Party started with Jefferson's thoughts on limited government and states' rights. And I still actually agree with a lot of that, because most of the real forward progress we're seeing today is coming out of the states. And if we hadn't maintained that balance between the two, we probably wouldn't be seeing any of that. we'd be seeing what we're seeing in 30 Republican states where they're all going down the shitter. So yeah, we live in interesting times, my friends. Interesting times indeed. Um, Almost 30 minutes in. No calls, no questions. One question. Every week, Sundays at 8 p.m. Central. Um, so we'll be yeah, I'll be trying to do this every Sunday, 8 p.m. Central. I'll do my best to dissect the freaking political talk shows, but they're so freaking painful and they say the same shit over and over again that I can't even really watch it anymore. Um, but I'd love to, I'll dip my toe into that, you know, disgusting pool of lies and conjecture and sophistry and bring back what I think is relevant. And mostly, I don't even think it's anything that they're talking about in the traditional media or even in politics anywhere is relevant to where we're going. I'm much more interested actually in talking about the future that we can create together with just a little bit of thought and a little bit of consideration for the least among us. And you know, while we should uh, appreciate those people who have the drive and the tenacity to succeed big, and we should if that's your own goal, then yeah, absolutely emulate them. But this adoration of success is ridiculous. This putting, to me, I think a, a guy who's just working every day and taking care of his bills and taking care of his family and he loves his kids and he's there every day and that's his definition of success is every bit as worthy of adoration as Elon Musk or frickin' Zuckerberg or anybody. What you've done in this world um, can be measured in all sorts of ways. It's what was in your heart when you did it. That's the primary measure. Do you follow the golden rule? Did you have to step on a lot of heads to get to the top of the food chain? How many throats did you have to rip out to make that success happen? Or were you able to do it in a collaborative fashion? Because the 21st century economy is coming into being. You can't stop it. I mean, we're already seeing it with Bitcoin and blockchain, and um, once robotics and artificial intelligence come online, and most of the manual labor jobs that left America in the 80s and 90s and went overseas, all those jobs are going to be replaced. So all those people are going to need something to do. Universal basic income is coming. We're going to see a shift in how we value things. There's a lot of people making a lot of money right now who are going to be really surprised in 20 years. All the masters of the universe today will be out of a job tomorrow because artificial intelligence will do it cheaper with no adverse effects to society. So they'll manage our money markets, they'll manage financial markets, they'll manage index funds, they'll create contracts, they'll write code, they'll do all those things that people can't do for themselves. And there's a lot of things that people can do that robots and artificial intelligence can't. For instance, explain people to robots and artificial intelligence. That's one thing that it'll be 100 or 200 years before the technology is able to understand us as well as we understand ourselves. And for that technology to be useful, it will have to know how to act in the service of humanity. Unless, we're heading towards some weird dystopia, but that's never been my natural bent, so I don't even go there. I suppose that would be fun in its own way. Put some of my military skills to good use. But yeah, and then all those personal touch things, masseuse, psychiatrist, psychologist, um, uh, personal trainers, hairstylists, waiters and waitresses and teachers and all those things that people will need to have to live meaningful lives that won't be done by robotics and artificial intelligence. Artists, creatives, artisans, you know, I'm hopeful that we're moving away from this disposable society. That it'll be a closed loop manufacturing cycle. So once everybody's not constantly chasing a brand new product, then perhaps those unique handcrafted one of a kind things will increase in value because of their scarcity. And because of an increase of interest, right? Once people aren't worried, am I going to have a roof over my head? Am I going to have some place to sleep that's safe? Am I going to have food in my belly? Am I going to have access to education and information? Once you take all that Maslow hierarchy of needs, the first 3 levels, out of the equation, then people can get aspirational. Then we can stop, killing thousands of Elon Musks in infancy every year. Because that's really what we're doing. Our current system is really wasting the only renewable resource we truly have, which is people, and our most valuable resource, which is people. We treat them like freaking Kleenex, throwaway. We have devolved into sort of this thing that was predicted by Huxley and Orwell. I would have preferred Asimov and Heinlein's vision, but that's not what we got. But it's not too late to build that, and I think that's coming. So I think the number is 218-565-9975. That should allow you to call me on Skype. I also think that you can hit me up at Artisan Politics via Skype, and it should flow into my streaming software here. I should be able to turn it on and have a conversation. So that's what we're trying to test out. If you got a minute, hit me up. If not, listen to me chat, listen to me speak, listen to me pontificate. I figure if freaking Rush Limbaugh and Savage and all those other dipshits can get paid hundreds of millions of dollars to have this type of program, I totally can. Get out of my chair, bitches. Give me my money. I will use that power for good. Trust me. They're clearly not using it for good. So what do you have to lose? Turn them bastards off. Turn me on. Get my numbers up so I can get a contract and get a syndicated show. And then we can have this conversation in real time via all kinds of different methodologies. I can turn my basement into a studio. Right now you get max headroom. Although I think I might just keep this format, though, because I like the max headroom format. Max headroom? You might not know that one, kids. Look it up. It was actually not a bad show for a little while there at the end of the 80s. I think it was the end of the 80s, early 90s. Yeah, so, the 21st century coming into being, and what is that going to look like? And, when you look at Gene Roddenberry and kind of what he envisioned for Star Trek, this time in history and over the next 100 years was really pivotal. Strangely enough, it was very pivotal in that timeline. And a lot of the other Asimov, Heinlein, a lot of them pointed towards that transition as a spot where we'd start to see massive changes. And we really are, and it is exponential. And I think it's what Godwin's law or Goodwin's law about exponential change, and we're seeing it on a lot of fronts: social, technology, artificial intelligence, political, climate. It's all just, you can feel it. If you're halfway sensitive to what's going on around you, you can feel it, you can see it. It's palpable. and it's exciting, and we have an opportunity to bring into being a world that supports everybody equally. And that's not to say everybody's going to be equal, but it will support everybody equally. Put a floor on the system. Say, you know what? There's not a single soul on this entire planet who needs to go to bed hungry, who needs to go to bed outside. I mean, unless they want to. Clearly, there's a certain percentage. Let's say I always use the 10% rule. So 10% of the global population, for whatever reason, is going to be totally resistant to anything we try to do to make their lives better. Period. They might live on the street. They might hobo. They might be psychopaths and try to kill people. There's a lot of things that 10% might do, and we just need to account for it in how we order society. But for the other 90% of us, you have a roof over your head. There's a cafeteria, a public cafeteria where you can get food. There's, public education where you can educate yourself on any number of subjects. There's career paths for you that, corporations are still going to need people to do all kinds of things. So that'll open up, and those paths will all be sort of wide open for everybody. Elon Musk starts realizing some of his goals, and we start having to expand into the universe. Well, if we're expanding just into the solar system, 7 billion people are barely enough to get that done. You're talking the square footage that's going to be available to us is ridiculous. That's like some Bill Gates mansion square footage. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to need all those people. So we need to get started today to have that reality in 2117, because that's where we're at. And if we do it right, a lot of us having this conversation today will be there to see that. And more, who knows? Who knows what the human body is capable of in terms of self-healing and regeneration and all kinds of crap that we never got to because we fucking got lost somewhere along the way. In the 80s. I blame Reagan. Actually, I blame the cabal that allowed him to come to power, which started with the John Birchers in the 60s. And I mean, we've always had that strain of thought in this country, so it's nothing new. So 218-565-9975. Or if I should call myself, see if it actually works. My phone. All right. Might as well talk to myself. I'm already talking to myself. I might as well make it official. Said it was busy. No. That's not true. Alright. Well, whatever. I don't care. I'll talk to myself. We'll just make this an online conversation. You can put the Skype app on your phone and call me via Skype. At Artisan Politics, using your phone and the Skype app. Check it out. Check it out. Oh, maybe I can use the Skype app to call myself. Let me see if I can do that. That said, I hate freaking iPhone. Whoa. Hey. Hey, Donald. How you doing, man? Is it okay if I throw you up on the video? Cool. Let's see if I can get this working. Cool.
Hey. Pretty good.
Oh, so this is one of the things I'm trying to figure out. I'm streaming through some desktop software and it's going into Facebook, but my computer and there's a delay.
Yeah.
And my computer then picks it up in the Facebook feed and feeds it back through my broadcast. So there appears to be this echo. So maybe we got.
Yeah. Well, I closed Facebook to get rid of it, and that seemed to help.
Oh, cool. I wasn't sure if I had to shut stuff down. So how are you?
I'm good.
Awesome. I need to move this over here. 1 second.
Yeah.
Because you're on the other screen, and it looks now I'm facing you, but now I'm not facing the camera, but now I'm looking at you. So I guess I need to look at the camera as well.
Yeah, I'm not getting your video on Skype, but I
Oh,
just had
let me turn it on.
yeah, I did that picture of you. Accept, yeah. It looks like it's going to come through. So, geez, I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah.
Um,
You still in Baltimore?
I'm still in Baltimore. My wife is in central Pennsylvania, taking care of her mom, and so we Skype every night. That's how we keep in touch.
Nice.
Go to see her every now and then. So it wasn't the plan, but that's just the way it worked out.
It looks like Skype can't connect to my webcam.
Oh well, okay.
Funny.
All right. Well, I guess you can see me.
I can see you. It's great. Yeah, you look great. This is cool. Was exactly what I hoped would be the format if I was able to get people to call and chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So crazy time. So just to let everybody know, the way I know Donald is he was one of a crew of, I don't know, maybe like
There are dozens of dozens.
a couple dozen regulars at Talking Points Memo when they had the Readers Cafe back in 2008.
Yeah.
And that was sort of my political. I was pretty much a neophyte. I'd only started paying attention for a couple of years at that point.
About the same for me.
And then obviously nonstop since.
Yeah.
Because once you start paying attention, it's darn near impossible to stop.
It is addictive. It is. Yeah, and then we actually physically met that one time in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
At the very sparsely attended event for healthcare.
Yeah.
Yeah, but which was cool. And then I guess you moved somewhere.
Portland.
Minnesota? Portland, okay.
Portland had a son.
That's right. I've seen the pictures on Facebook. That's great.
And then we moved from Portland to Minneapolis.
That's right. I thought you were Minneapolis. Okay. So.
And then probably Denver next, I would imagine.
Cool. I have a daughter not too far from Denver. Fort Collins.
Oh yeah, Fort Collins is great. My mom lives in Loveland.
Yeah, I used to have a brother-in-law. He was at the Arapahoe. We went and saw them. They were in the Arapahoe district, and, which was like one school over from the school where the big shooting was. And so we went out there, and they showed us around, and showed us the fun parts of Denver, which was really nice. It's a really nice town.
Oh yeah, Denver's great.
Yeah,
love Denver.
So yeah. But he moved to Minneapolis. Actually, no, he's in Brainerd. Actually, he's in Brainerd. Yeah, he and his family moved to Brainerd. So they were. I know. I went to Lake Brainerd on vacation. For a brief period, my family lived in Minneapolis, and on vacation we went to Lake Brainerd one summer, which was very nice. But yeah, I guess it does get cold. You know that Minneapolis has a fairly hot, but not too extensive summer.
Yeah, I've been here for about a year and a half now. So I had the summer, and I had one winter and a pretty good summer, and this winter's been pretty mild for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically what this program's going to be is just sort of chatting about politics and the future, and I feel there's like a zeitgeist coming into being that's been developing over several years now, and to me, as much as shocking as something like Trump is, I feel like it was completely necessary to shock us out of our lethargy as citizens and voters, and we're already starting to see that reverbation. At least through social media to begin with, but in some of the special elections coming up, there's been a lot of enthusiasm, which is weird for a special election, as you know. So especially when right after I was referencing this one in Georgia. It's a special election for a Congress guy that got put in the cabinet.
Yeah, that was Ossoff you were talking about.
Yeah, Ossoff. And apparently he's raised a ton of money already, and he's there's a decent chance that he might actually take that seat and flip it. Which a Democrat hasn't flipped a Republican seat in, I can't remember the last time actually.
Yeah, there was something, and I don't remember the details, but they were talking about it on the Young Turks in Connecticut. There was some kind of election that was they were getting behind the Democratic candidate, and I guess it got a lot closer. It was, I guess it usually would have been like, the guy would have been lucky to get 25% of the vote, and I guess he got something like 39% of the vote. So they were feeling pretty good about that. But
Nice.
It's still not a win. But at least it's a better showing.
Well, no, and I really wish people would, I still feel like we're looking at all the available facts and drawing the wrong conclusions. I still have yet to hear anybody talk about the simple mathematical equation of turnout versus results.
Yeah.
So they always talk about, hey, the guy got 39%. Well, he got 39% of 15% turnout.
Yeah.
If he got 39, that 39% could have gone up dramatically if that 15% even increased by 5. So I feel like we're still not, like, I don't know that anybody really drew the right conclusions from what the Tea Party did in 2010 and 2014, at least on the progressive side of the house. I think Bernie Sanders actually did and still does and will continue to push that, actually.
Well, there are 2 or 3 rival movements right now for the progressive vote. There's that Our Revolution group. There's the guy who was going to be in charge of Bernie's group, and then he and 8 other people quit, I think, as soon as another guy was brought on board, and they started it. They're trying to start something called the People's Party, and they were trying to get Bernie to come join them in the People's Party, and he said no. And then there's the Young Turks have this thing. What do they call that? Justice Democrats.
All right.
So, yeah.
There's like Brand New Congress is one that's out there, and I'm just excited to see progressive groups having energy. And at least a modicum of focus.
There seems to be a little bit more energy around the Green Party too. I mean, they were on some. Well, have you ever seen the Sane Progressive podcast?
I don't think I have. I don't watch a lot of podcasts, ironically.
Okay, well, there's this woman named Debbie Luzignan, and she does it on Facebook as well, and then has a YouTube channel as well. So she reposts them on YouTube after she does them on Facebook.
Cool. Oh yeah, I still needed to start recording. Yeah, I have my methodology is going to be do it live on Facebook through this podcast software, and record it, and then post it to my YouTube channel afterwards.
Okay, that sounds about like the same kind of thing. She had somebody from the Green Party who ran several years ago. I wasn't really familiar with him, but he was just kind of talking about the difficulty of actually starting a party. How many parties have been started and have failed?
That's why I think the progressives need to take over both parties and do it via the midterm primaries. I think it's totally possible. And again, it's just a math thing. Like, just like, you know what it is? It's changing the strategies. Because I feel like we've always done this. We've been like, oh, well, the Republicans suck or the Democrats suck. Let's start our own thing. And it's like, well, yeah, sure, but to me it seems much easier to just take over something that already exists and have kind of come to rest on their own laurels. The Tea Party already did it, but we can take it right back. Because I think AstroTurf is much less powerful than grassroots, obviously. And if an AstroTurf movement can do it, a grassroots movement can totally do it. And again, it's just all math to me. I'm very sort of unemotional and sort of objective. And I'm not even like, I don't necessarily even think that big government's always the answer, right? Like I actually am sort of a small c conservative when it comes to a lot of progressive ideas and programs and processes and things we need to fix.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I mean, I'm getting a time delay. I'm watching it, but I'm getting a time delay. So it looks like you're still talking. Because I don't know if you've been following like people like Lizzie on Facebook, who's really right now kind of torn between wanting Trump to accomplish something and where she was a few years ago.
Yeah.
And
that was a shocking reversal, actually. I did notice that. I was like, what?
Yeah, well, yeah.
But there's other reasons for that, I believe, obviously.
I think so, yeah. I mean,
But it's great, because, I mean, then she starts to, let's just say for sake of argument, people like her go, you know what, I'm just kind of tired of whatever. Mm-hmm. If they start to hold his feet to the fire, their expectations haven't changed. Just who they're expecting it from has changed. So, you know, if he continues to, like, see, that's what I feel like, again, as citizens, where we fell down, right? We took it for granted that we had the Clean Air and Clean Water Act and Social Security and Medicare and streetlights and firefighters and like a State Department that works and Planned Parenthood and like all these things. We kind of took it for granted and didn't realize that it was the federal government paying for that. So now that Trump is undoing all that fast, like you see the budget that came out, it's ridiculous, and that shit's going to get passed, and he's going to sign it, and it's going to get worse before it gets better for sure.
Yeah.
But what it's doing is everybody going, what? He did what? No more EPA? What? Like, and then they start seeing actual, like, oh, like he stopped doing this with the EPA, and then all of a sudden we had 5, pipeline spills in the next 6 months. Like, it's going to be all real time, in your face, and you can't ignore it, because even though the media is not covering it, we have social media, and I don't know about you, but I have a fairly diverse group of friends. I have conservatives, I have moderates, I have uber-duber liberals.
Oh, yeah.
And they're all sort of concerned about similar things that are coming out of this White House. So, if anything, I think he's galvanizing that 70% silent majority who thinks that some of these things are common sense, and why are we even fucking with it? Excuse my French. I don't know how you are with the F-bombs, but it really is that sort of cut and dry. You know what I mean? The Department of Education, really? Is it that controversial to most Americans? No, I think it's controversial to about that many Americans. And then all of a sudden, public schools start failing that were kind of already on the edge. I mean, there's going to be real-time consequences, but we can't ignore it anymore, I guess is my main point. It's because it's going to be so in our face all the time. And with those Republican governors, I mean, 30 states, it's going to get really bad. Like, at least we have states like California and New York, and I'm not sure what Maryland's been doing, but I think Maryland's been in on some of this, pushing back from the state level on some of these rollbacks, and basically taking things that the feds were doing and folding it into state agencies. And
yeah, we have a Republican governor in Maryland.
He took over for O'Malley.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah, because he was running against O'Malley's lieutenant governor, and that guy didn't go anywhere. So it was kind of a big surprise. Larry Hogan, I think, is the name of the governor here. Yeah.
Do you guys have term limits? Or did O'Malley just decide not to run?
I don't really know why he decided. He might have thought he had a real shot at the presidential nomination and wanted to focus on that.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I don't know who advised him to run for president, but he does not have a personality to run for president.
No.
He'd have been a great VP, though. Actually, I think he would have been a better pick than Kane. I think O'Malley would have been a much better pick than Kane.
Well, if life imitates art, that's what the governor on The Good Wife was hoping for. He was hoping to be VP pick.
Oh, The Good Wife. I still haven't watched that.
Yeah.
It always reminds me of this quote from Big Bang Theory when Raj is watching The Good Wife, and he's like, "Oh, the good wife is crying." So every time someone says The Good Wife, I hear Raj say, "The good wife is crying."
Yes. Well, they've replaced The Good Wife. The series is over, and they've taken a lot of the cast regulars and started a new show called The Good Fight. And Christine Baranski is continuing, and some of the other players, and but they're putting it on CBS All Access, which means I won't be able to watch it because I'm not really encouraging more rent seeking in the world.
Yeah.
So I won't be watching Star Trek Discovery, and I won't be watching The Good Fight and anything else they put on All Access.
Gotcha.
Although it looks like it's probably going to be a pretty interesting show, but that's the way it goes. There's a lot of HBO shows I don't watch either because I don't feel like contributing to pay TV.
Oh yeah, I'm of a little different mind just based on some of my goals and ambitions, and plus I'm sort of a entertainment junkie as a writer and a screenwriter and a producer and a filmmaker. So and my ADD requires it. It's like my self-medication. It's having all this information bombarding me all the time. But cool, dude. Well, it was good talking to you. I'm coming up on an hour of the program. I think this was successful. Thanks so much for helping me test this out.
Sure.
And keep tuned. I'm trying to do Sunday nights at 8 because it's I can always do it. Like I have my son every other weekend, but he's usually in bed by like 7:30, quarter to 8. So I might do it 9 Central, which would be 10 Eastern. I don't know. I'll have to figure it out from a timing perspective. But
okay. I didn't even think that you were in Central Time Zone.
Yeah. I mean, I want to do it early enough that my East Coast friends can participate, but not too early that my West Coast friends can't. So that's one good thing about being in the middle. So I'm going to try to get it going on a regular basis, though, because I think it'd be a lot of fun if I could get people to call up and have these discussions. So is there anybody excited at your local level? So my big thing for 2018 is the congressional House, all the House elections, 435 House elections. Yeah. So what district are you in? Is it red? Is it blue?
Well, I'm working in Maryland, and I'm actually still registered to vote in Pennsylvania because I have a house there. So it would be, for a long, long time, they had a fellow named Bud Schuster.
Yeah.
Who was just elected over and over and over and over, and eventually he died. And his son has taken his place, Bill Schuster. And they've tried to primary him. The guy primarying him did quite well. And a lot of the people I know went out and voted for the primary candidate, but he didn't quite dislodge Schuster. And then there were some attacks from the other side as well. But it seems to be really hard to get that guy out. Although I don't really know. I don't know. It's a funny thing. I don't know anybody who likes him, but he just seems to keep winning.
It's gerrymandering. Again, it's that math problem, right?
Yeah.
So and when was the last primary challenge that tried to oust him? This last election?
It was the election before.
So 14.
Yeah. And like I said, the challenger, I forget his name now. The challenger did very well, but he didn't quite.
Actually, I found this report on. Let's see if I can find it. Where is it? I have a report that I found on some government website, like on the House Senate site, Congress site. Yeah. I can't put my hands on it right now, but it has basically all the results from the last election, and the previous I got 2014, 2010, and 2008 numbers for the Senate and the House for every district. So it's and it's really interesting because you look at some districts and these guys are just running unopposed every time, and it also has the challengers and their actual percentages and how many people voted and what percentage that was of registered voters. It's a super detailed report. It'd be interesting to look at those numbers for Schuster.
Yeah.
But my goal is, I'm hoping if I can get some things going, is to visit every single district in the country. either in person or via Skype, and talk with voters in that district, find primary candidates who are running, see what their politics are. I mean, because not all primary candidates are created equal, right? Like, whoever's trying to primary him could be just as bad and just as much of a repressive or regressive as the guy he's trying to replace.
Yeah.
So we got to encourage like the moderates to start running again, the Eisenhower Republicans, you know, the old Rockefeller Republican types. Anyway, my normal soapbox.
Yeah.
One you're probably familiar with.
Yeah. Have you paid any attention to Greg Palast's articles on voting irregularities or any of that kind of thing?
You know, I haven't. And again, I think the reason why we're even able to have irregularities is because the turnout is so low and the margins are so narrow. Like, I don't doubt that there are irregularities, but I think that's a symptom of the problem rather than the problem itself. And I don't think we can fix it. Like, I think whatever irregularities exist are there because people are exploiting the fact that so few of us vote and the margins are so narrow. So it's like I'm more of a like get to the root of the problem and fix that. And I feel like turnout. Clearly, if we were voting in 60 or 70% numbers in every single election, primary election, special election, and then the general went up from there, right? So the general's like 75 or 80, and the primaries are like 50, 60, 70. You won't see any irregularities. What you'll see is a bunch of pissed off people because they basically broke the election system and it couldn't handle those kinds of numbers. I mean, imagine if you had the same kinds of lines during primaries that you have for the general during a presidential year. I mean, people would be losing their minds. If every time you went to vote, it took you 6 hours, or 4 hours, or 5 hours, whatever, I mean, dude, things would get fixed fast. But, I mean, that's not, what is it? You go to war with the country you have, not the country you wish you had.
Yeah.
So, I got to give Trump credit. He woke everybody up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was a big surprise. And I was warned on a number of fronts that this could happen, and I wrote a blog post about it. You know, one of the fellows I read, John Michael Greer, had been predicting that he thought Trump was going to do very well, and he mostly writes about energy depletion and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And he had all his reasons, you know, and I thought, oh, okay. And then I ran across that economist, Mark Blythe, he's in Rhode Island, and he's, I guess, a native of Scotland. He's got an entertaining accent to listen to, but he also makes a lot of sense. And he had said, you know, no one was predicting a win for Brexit, but it happened.
Yeah.
No one was predicting a win for various alt-right candidates around Europe, but some of them happened. No one was predicting what happened in Greece, but it happened. So why shouldn't Trump happen? You know?
Yeah.
And he was right. And then he's also predicting that Marine Le Pen could take France, because she says the only way, after, I guess they have a system over there where they have an initial election and then there's a runoff between the final two candidates, and they said, you know, she's almost certain to get into the runoff. And then they said, can you really see what they call the progressives and all the people actually getting together and supporting somebody, because they're very fractured, putting together a candidate that's going to defeat her in the final election.
Right.
So we could end up seeing another alt-right candidate in a major European country.
Right.
So anyway, I was kind of prepared, and the other thing was, when I was driving back and forth between Maryland and Pennsylvania, I didn't see but a handful of Hillary Clinton signs.
Oh yeah, I didn't see any in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I saw
more Bernie signs than Hillary signs.
Yeah, I didn't see that many Trump signs, but I didn't see that many Hillary signs. I didn't see hardly any Hillary signs, and I actually saw more congressional signs than I saw signs for the presidential race, and that kind of told me that something was really off with this presidential race.
Yeah. I agree.
Not excited about their choices, and you know, and as you say, I have a diverse group. My My family, largely Trump supporters. My wife's family is mixed between Trump supporters and Hillary supporters. And people at work, there's a mixture, of people who are very liberal and some people who are very, very right wing.
Yeah. I mean, I work in technology, so it's like mostly liberal progressives. I mean, that's pretty much the mindset for most technologists I've come across. And we do government tech on top of it, so
Yeah.
even more so.
Yeah,
What's
sure.
cool though is what we do is kind of bipartisan. It's like it's not really beholden to either party because both parties like to have technology to accomplish their mission. So it kind of works out.
Did you get familiar with the recent Thomas Frank book or see any of his talks?
I haven't. That's the what's the hell wrong with Kansas thing, right?
Well, that's the first book, not the first.
Yeah.
But that's the older book that he wrote.
But that's kind of where he came to fame.
Right. Yeah, he's written another book, and I bought it and read it and sent it to one of my wife's relatives. It's called Listen Liberal.
Oh, nice. I bet it's good.
It is good.
I've been saying that for years.
Yeah, it's really a very interesting takedown of how, as he sees it, the left, I guess the establishment left, has really become beholden to what they call a technocratic elite of people like Elon Musk, who you were mentioning before, and people that all went to the same fancy schools, and and all consider each other to be high merit earning type people, and he sees that as a big problem as to why they failed to motivate the kind of people that voted for Trump.
Yeah.
So he was one of those other people out there predicting that Hillary Clinton might be in trouble.
I knew Hillary was in trouble.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to be Trump, but I knew Hillary was in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Bernie it was amazing he did as well as he did. I mean, and that's why I don't believe in the conspiracy theories either. Like everybody's always, they stole it from Bernie, or it was a conspiracy to get rid of Bernie. I'm like, the DNC was under no obligation to support Bernie Sanders' candidacy, and they were under no obligation to not have a candidate that they did support. Like, it's a private organization. The primaries are party primaries. Like, it's like people don't really understand the mechanisms of this system that we have. And the legalities involved with it too. So that he did as well as he did as an independent amazed me. And you know what? Again, voters under 40 turned out 28%. Voters over 50 turned out 68%. I mean, it's all a numbers game.
Mm-hmm.
Voters under 40, if they're turning out at 50% better, Bernie wins.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a numbers thing.
Yeah. And he didn't.
And winning begets winning too, right? So the more he won, the more he would have won. Like, that was sort of that Obama phenomenon, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what Obama had going for him that Bernie didn't is Obama was already a Democrat.
Yeah.
So, he was able to get all those people who weren't excited about Hillary, but really didn't want to go for somebody like a Dennis Kucinich, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
So he was kind of that middle ground. Like, he's kind of progressive, but still middle of the road. He talks progressive, but I bet he's not. And he wasn't.
Yeah.
I never thought he would be. So it's like, I feel like progressives in this country are sort of the victims of their own stupid assumptions and mistaken expectations. And that's why the uber right and the alt right have been eating our lunch for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
That's why I think he's actually wrong. I agree with the what the hell's the matter with Kansas thing, because I think the all those places are much more progressive than we've been led to believe. We just need to redefine it. It's a semantics thing. I think where liberals actually went wrong was drinking their own Kool-Aid too much, and they're kind of pedantic and lecturing. And I feel the same way from the right. Like, there's this cognitive dissonance from both sides of the spectrum where they're just unable to explain what it is they're trying to tell me without me feeling like they think I'm an idiot. Or I just don't get it. Or I must be stupid. Or I must not have gone to school. Or I must not have read the same cool shit that they've read. Like, it's all very sort of disrespectful and dismissive, and not a lot of listening going on first, and then processing what you heard, and then reframing your argument in a way that makes the other person understand that you just heard their objections to your initial, you know what I mean? Like, there's just no communication going on. And it's, granted, it's been going on in the right for years, but we, as progressives, I think, need to take that higher road and that higher path and figure out a way to get that. Because, okay, granted, Trump got into office and in large part to probably fairly nice, middle-of-the-road Republicans put this guy in office. Like, people that you would have a picnic with and probably have fun, have a few beers, and you know what I mean? You might talk about schools and have some things in common. So Trump's voters, his core is really 25% of the American electorate, right? And then we have 75%. Again, I think it's that 75% silent majority that hasn't really been accounted for because of the way things work. It's all hyper partisan, but they keep us at each other's throats for a reason. That's
I think the numbers I've seen, there's like 25% of the electorate right now are self-identify as Democrats, and about 30% self-identify as Republicans. And
right.
The actual there's actually more independents than either of the parties.
But half the independents would probably say, you know, I'm kind of conservative. I'm conservative fiscally, but I'm a social liberal.
Yeah.
Both sides. So, whichever one they say first are they an independent Democrat or an independent Republican? Because both parties have screwed the pooch. I'm whatever I need to be for wherever I live. So if I live in a red district, I'll register Republican. If I live in a blue district, I'll register Democrat. That's kind of the way I'm approaching it from now on, because the party identities don't fit, I don't think, and they haven't for a long time.
Well, that's that old George Carlin quote. You know, we have one party in America, but it has two right wings or something like that.
Right.
You know.
Well, I've always said it's the they're the flip sides of that corporate coin, right? It's the same party. It's the same policies. It was the same it's unbroken since Reagan. Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, Obama. Did I miss anyone? No.
Yeah.
Obama was the same as everybody before. You know what I mean? Like, the stock market went up, the rich and the poor separated. They're
calling. There was another article I read by a Professor Corey Robin, who's written a couple of books, and he said this is the regime, and it's really started with Reagan. You might even include Carter, the neoliberal regime.
I actually think Carter was our last best hope to avoid that.
Yeah, but you know, he brought on so many of his cabinet picks were not really on board with his ideals.
Yeah, that's probably his naivete.
Brzezinski and people like that.
I think Obama made the same mistake.
Yeah. But and then Mark Blythe kind of ties in with that too. He says, you know, they had starting with Franklin Roosevelt. You know, we had a period of time, a regime, if you will, which was big government, and it was good for the working class, and you know, you were making more money than you had been before, and you expect your children to make more money, and then you got to Reagan, and it was kind of like, the rich people finally said, no, you know, we're not making enough money anymore. People are borrowing money, and they're basically. He had some example where he said, you know, you could like take out a 40-year mortgage, and said by the end of the mortgage, you know, you were practically getting your money for nothing. You know, and rich people said, no, that's enough of that. It's enough of the unions, and they started pushing back on all that stuff.
Yep.
And it's been that regime right up until Trump. And so the question right now is Trump a continuation of Reaganism and the neoliberal, neocon type policies, or is he really is he really going to attack and try to stop the globalism? Is he going to be successful in stopping the globalism? Because he's said that he wants to stop the globalism
Can't say
and be more nationalistic.
It's
But is
like
he
I
really?
want to stop gravity.
Well, yeah.
No, I think he's a totally different. I actually think he's off the spine of both those. I think it's neoliberalism, neocon, that sort of corporate focused policies. Um,
Yeah, some people call them multicultural globalists.
I think that that's going to continue.
Mhm.
I think that he's just going to push the pedal down on it. I mean, I think he's all that and then some. I think he's the logical end result of what started under Reagan, actually.
Mhm.
I think Jimmy Carter broke the not Jimmy Carter. Richard Nixon broke the Republican Party,
Yeah.
and then when Teddy Kennedy took out Carter in the primary, or damaged Carter in the primary so bad that he couldn't beat Reagan.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm going to take that to my grave. I know people disagree with me, but that's what. And I think Teddy Kennedy was sort of that neoliberal,
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So I feel like Teddy Kennedy broke the Democratic Party. Richard Nixon broke the Republican Party. What came out of those two breakages in the 80s, 90s, and now 2000s has taken us so we've continued to progress socially with gay rights and women's rights. And they're steadily keep those things kept getting better, but our economic liberty and our economic progressivism
Mhm.
stopped cold
Yeah.
in the 80s and actually started to drop.
Mhm.
And you see the same thing at the end of the last century, right? Coming
Mhm.
out of the age of industrialization and into the 20s, and then the stock market and the depression. I mean, it's not like we haven't been here before, I guess
Yeah.
would be my
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
The nice thing
Some.
is we have a lot of advantages that some of those earlier generations didn't.
Mhm. Well, social media is one of them.
That's Without social media, we're living 1984, straight up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Straight up. They
Well,
just can't control it.
a lot of the multiculturalists make the point that uh, across the world, nations are doing better in general. Nations are becoming more equal, to the United States and other industrialized countries. But then other
Absolutely.
people come back and say, but there's also rising inequality in those nations. So it's like, we have rising inequality within the nations, but the nations are becoming more equal overall.
Well, that's always the case, right? That's just a consequence of it.
Hmm.
It's how do we get sustained and sustainable growth for more people without those negative byproducts, And I feel like until America can do that for ourselves,
Hmm.
nothing that sort of emulates us on a global scale will ever reach that metric either, right? They're all just a reflection of our dysfunction. I mean, that's really all we're seeing on a global scale at this point.
Yeah.
Um, so if I feel like if we were better, or at least us and Europe, I mean Europe's really been following us for a long time. So they bypassed us in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of really good ideas that they're doing that we need to take on board.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm hopeful that this election has changed what Americans will accept as reality, and then we can kind of go from there. Maybe a new shared reality. It's a really shitty one, but hey, at least we're all on the same page finally.
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
So,
all right, dude. Well, I'll
all
let you
right.
get back to your chores. I saw that you were doing some chores there, doing some
Yeah.
laundry.
Yeah.
And I got some chores myself. But
Okay.
hey, this has been a lot of fun. I
All
appreciate
right.
you helping me out.
Sure.
Take it easy, Donald.
Yeah. All right. You take care.
Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yep. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye. All right. Well, that was fun. So everybody who tuned in, that's going to be sort of basically the format. What I need to do is figure out, obviously, how to have multiple calls, or maybe I just put a time limit on calls, because I could sit there and chat with somebody for hours, and it would be fun. So maybe I'll put a 10-minute timer on calls so I can hang up and let someone else call in. Um, but yeah, this has been a lot of fun. You've been watching the Artisan Politics Beta with Jason Everett Miller. I will be back. Maybe we'll do our kickoff show this Sunday, 8 p.m. Central. Peace.